Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my name is Alain Correa. I am the chairman of GIFAS committee in Japan. And it is a great honor to welcome you here today at the Paris Space Hub, which is, as you know, the major new feature of this 55th edition of the Paris Air Show. It is in this prestigious setting that GIFAS and SJAC decided to organize today a French-Japanese industrial dialogue on space. This gathering marks a significant milestone in the long-standing relationship between France and Japan in the field of space. It reflects not only our shared commitment to scientific excellence and technological innovation, but also the deep mutual trust that unites our two nations. Today's program brings together key industrial stakeholders and space agencies for a series of keynote speeches that will underline our common ambitions and strategic priorities in space exploration, research, and industry. Following these addresses, we will organize a group photo of all the speakers, and then a delegation of Japanese space companies will tour the exhibition and visit our French industry here present in the exhibition. We hope that this visit will foster dialogue and strengthen ties between our companies of these two countries. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank all of you for your presence and engagement. It is now my pleasure to begin the session by inviting our first distinguished speaker to the stage. So please welcome Mr. David Cavalloles, representative of GIFAS and CEO of Arianespace.
Well, dear representatives of the French government, dear representatives of the Japanese government, dear Joseph Aschbarer, dear representative of industry, dear international partners, dear colleagues, dear friends, good afternoon and welcome to the Paris Space Hub. We are absolutely delighted to see for the very first time ever this agora at Le Bourget, where the cooperatives of the futures are taking shape. The collaboration between France and Japan, I'm absolutely convinced, is a powerful level of innovation, ambition, and sovereignty. So today I'm speaking on behalf of the French GIFAS, but also on behalf of Arianespace, because we have been collaborating with the Japanese counterpart for more than 4 decades, and we are absolutely proud of it. So you know, this is through common missions, joint international missions between the GIFAS and the Society of Japanese Aerospace Companies, the SJAC, such as the one that has been held last year, at the beginning of last year, that we see a commitment to foster new partnerships, to support international access to markets for small companies, but also for larger groups. And it also encourages the emergence of joint projects in promising fields. So, to be honest, I think there are a lot of promising fields, but I will quote only some of them, maybe the most promising one. So, space exploration, Earth observation, security, and also dual applications. All of this is possible because I'm deeply convinced that we share a set of common industrial values. I mean, technological innovation, quality, and a very robust supply chain. So on a more personal note, at Arianespace, we are very, very proud of this special relationship with Japan. We have an office in Tokyo since 1986. It's now run by Mr. Kiyoshi Takamatsu. I'm sure that most of you know him. Over the last 35 years, we have launched 32 satellites for Japanese operators, almost one per year. And we also had very interesting exchanges with MHI to have some backup for launches. And now that we are back with Ariane 6, I'm quite convinced that we'll be able to go even deeper in the partnership. You know, recently I was in Washington and I met the president of Skyperfect GSAT, Mr. Yonekura, and I was very impressed by the level of trust between our companies and between our teams. And for me, this is a strong symbol of the quality of the relationship between Japan and France. And you know, in our industry, we are building rockets, we are building satellites, but above all, this is trust that makes the difference, because we are doing a very risky project, very complex project, and this is all a question of trust, a question of people. By the way, in today's world, I think that this trust, that is long-lasting trust, is more important than ever. So for this reason, on behalf of GIFAS, we look forward to pursue the cooperation, to deepen it, together with the JAXA, with the SJAC, with the CNES, with the ESA, of course, to build the space of tomorrow. Last but not least, at the end of next week, I will be in Tokyo, and I would be more than happy to meet all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. David Cavalloles, representative of GIFAS and CEO of Arianespace. Please help me welcoming to the stage now Mr. Dr. Tomonori Sato, Chairman of SJAC Space Committee and Executive Officer at Mitsubishi Electric Corporation.
Bonjour and good evening, everyone. My name is Tomonori Sato, Chairman of Space Committee in SJAC. It is my great honor to give the opening remark on France-Japan Space Industry Dialogue 2025 with GIFAS. So I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all government officials responsible for space policy in Japan and France, as well as the leaders of the space development agencies, JAXA and CNES, and other agencies, for gathering here today to share their insights. This SID, Space Industry Dialogue, was planned with the aim of fostering cooperation between the Japanese and French space-related companies, is inspired by the recent global advancement in space utilization. We are delighted that this first SID is being held at Space Hub here, which is making its debut at Paris Airshow venue. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to all these who have contributed to the successful realization of this event. SJAC will continue to work with international partners to foster a sustainable and prosperous future in space. We are honored to have this special opportunity to deepen the relationship between Japan and France's space industries. We sincerely hope that this event will be stimulating and fruitful for all participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tomonori Sato, Chairman of SJAC Space Committee and Executive Officer of Mitsubishi Electric Corporation. So let's welcome to the stage now Mr. Brice Lamotte, Director of Space Policy and Defense from Ministry of Higher Education and Research.
Thank you. Dear colleagues from Japan, dear friends, I'm delighted to be with you for this Franco-Japanese forum, and I warmly thank our Japanese partners for their attendance to the Salon du Bourget. Thank you very much to be here. I would first like to reaffirm the importance that France places on the space cooperation with Japan. This is a strategic partnership that encompasses all aspects of space, particularly its civil, security, and industrial aspects. The civil cooperation we monitor within the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, which I belong to, is clearly structuring. Under the leadership of the space agencies, CNES and JAXA, it has led to remarkable partnerships, including MMX, for example, which will soon study the moons of Mars, or, for example, the Callisto technology project. These cooperations also stimulate innovation in sectors such as robotics, artificial intelligence, and greener technologies. As such, civil cooperation naturally forms the foundation, the basis of an ambitious partnership, which also encompasses the industrial challenges that bring us together today. On this point, the French authorities are very pleased to note that industrial cooperation between France and Japan is expanding, involving both established manufacturers and startups. This demonstrates the existing potential and the remarkable adaptability of our industrial sectors, both in France and Japan, and their desire to move forward. It also demonstrates the essential role of space agencies in connecting the French and Japanese ecosystems. The French authorities naturally call for the continuation of these industrial cooperation initiatives. And in this regard, we face challenges to overcome in strengthening our industrial partnership. Beyond our cultural and organizational differences, a reflection on our technical standards, our regulatory environment, and even common financial mechanisms would contribute to streamlining and deepening our ties. This requires, of course, to pursue the dialogue and cooperation at all levels, and the French authorities will naturally contribute to this with enthusiasm. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brice Lamotte, Director of Space Policy and Defense from the Ministry of Higher Education and Research. So let's welcome now Mr. Jun Kazeki, Director General for the National Space Policy Secretariat.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Je suis honoré d'être ici à la conférence entre la France et le Japon. Je voudrais également féliciter à M. Correa et M. Caballero de GFAS et M. Sato de SJAC. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jun Kazeki, Director General of the National Space Policy Secretariat at the Cabinet Office of Japan. It is a great honor to be here today at an important dialogue between the French and the Japanese space industries. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers, GFAS and SJAC, for giving me the opportunity to deliver this keynote speech. France and Japan have long shared a deep commitment to space exploration and innovation. Today's event provides a valuable opportunity to foster a shared understanding and vision among stakeholders from both countries and to promote strong industrial cooperation. First of all, let me talk about briefly the overview of Japan's space policy. Japan's space policy is decided by the strategic headquarters for space policy, chaired by the Prime Minister Ishiba, and vice chairs by the Chief Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Hayashi, and Minister of State for Space Policy, Mr. Kiguchi. And all the ministers are relevant for the strategic headquarters for the space policy. So our approach is comprehensive, involving cross-coordination across ministries and agencies. The latest version of our basic plan on space policy, updated in June 2023, outlines 4 key goals. First, ensuring space security. Second, enhancing national resilience and addressing global challenges. Third, advancing space science and exploration. And fourth, strengthening our industrial basis and technological basis. To support these goals, we have launched a Space Strategy Fund for a 10-year initiative totaling approximately 1 trillion yen. This fund supports R&D by startups, universities, and private companies with a focus on expanding the space market, addressing climate and disaster challenges, and advancing lunar and Martian explorations. In addition, the Space Security Initiative, established in 2023, outlined Japan's long-term vision for space security, including the development of capabilities in satellite navigation, intelligence, communications, and space situational awareness. Japan and Europe, particularly France, have a long history of collaboration in space. From our joint work on the International Space Station, where JAXA and CNES have cooperated closely, to the Callisto reusable launch vehicle project with CNES and DLR, our partnership have been both strategic and productive. Looking ahead, industrial cooperation between Japan and Europe is more important than ever as we enter a new era of lunar exploration under the Artemis program. It is important to note that while the US budgetary outlook remains fluid, this very uncertainty underscores the importance of strong cooperation between Japan and Europe. France, in particular, possesses a significant strengths in areas such as rocket technologies, exploration systems, Earth observation technologies, and so on. Therefore, I believe there are many promising areas for collaboration between our industries. These complementary strengths create opportunities for joint development, innovation, and market expansion. Moreover, as space becomes increasingly congested or contested, collaboration in space security and sustainability is essential. By aligning our policy frameworks and industrial capabilities, we can ensure a safe and sustainable use of outer space for future generations. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that the future of space exploration and utilization depends upon strong international partnerships. I sincerely hope that today's event will deepen mutual understanding and lead to new opportunities for industrial cooperation between Japan and France. Let us continue to work together to push the boundaries of what is possible in space for the benefit of all humankind. We need action, action, and actions. Okay? Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jun Kazeki, Director General of National Space Policy, Secretariat of the Cabinet Office for the Government of Japan. It's time now to welcome Mr. Maxence Brichoux, Head of Unit for Space Policy for the French Ministry for the Economy, Finance, and Industrial and Digital Sovereignty.
Thank you, everybody, dear colleagues from Japan, dear Joseph Ashbauer, dear François-Jacques. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to explain, I would say, the main guidelines and objectives of the French space strategy when it comes to the industry. So I will be very short for two reasons. First, there is a long series of speakers so far. And second, President Macron will take the floor next Friday, so I will try not to undercover or divulgate what he will be saying next Friday. I assure you will listen to his words. So basically, I would like very shortly to underline two basic things. First, capability. So what is that we want to finance and to have at the European level in terms of capacity for governments and the modern economy that we are aiming at. And second, I will just give you a very brief picture of the investment plan, which is called France 2030, where space was really one of the highlights of the investment plan launched and developed by President Macron and the Prime Minister. So to begin with, as you know, with Joseph Archbauer, we are celebrating today and this week the 50th birthday of the European Space Agency. And the ESA was created in Paris by the Paris Convention, so again, signed and written, negotiated 50 years ago. So the constant will of the French government has always been to develop a European capacity, European space capacity between all member states. So the initial community around ESA, and since the beginning of this millennium century with the European Commission and the European Union. So this endeavor, this, I would say, this project of building together European capacity is still very well alive, and we are celebrating the 50th birthday. So what are we working on with Commission, with ESA, with Germany and Italy? So the priority remains and is a cornerstone of our national strategy to have a successful, reliable and competitive access to space. So David spoke about Ariane 6. We also developed jointly with Italy the medium launcher Vega C. So both these European launchers are working, they are back on the market, and they are competitive and attractive for your launches. Of course, with Germany, Italy, we are working on the next generation. I will come to that later. But we are also expecting in the coming weeks a new financial proposal from the Commission, which will precisely define the kind of constellations that we need for the future and the coming decades. So at the European level, of course, we'll continue investing, and this is critical, in Copernicus, which provides data for the scientific community on climate change, and we will continue strongly investing in Galileo, which is an autonomous, sovereign, and freely available constellation that provides a very precise PNT for all users across the globe. And we are also, of course, working on that with the industry, and the GFAS is very much involved on these two programs, which are the cornerstone of the European Space Program, jointly with the Commission and ESA. But we want to do more. We want to do more to ensure our autonomy, and that Europeans as a whole has autonomous access to space and European autonomous capacity. So the Commission just launched late December the so-called IRIS Square program, which is a PPP to develop and operate for the next 12 years a new constellation that will provide high bandwidth broadband across the globe, and that will satisfy our sovereign needs for the military, for other public policies such as crisis management, but that will also serve I would say, the global public, be it B2B and B2C. And Eutelsat, just across the corner, is of course, a main actor that will invest in the constellation. And we call on, a lot of, we think this is a valuable contribution of Europe to our partnership to Japan. If you need, of course, connectivity for your public services, for your company, for your maritime and airlines, you can go to Eutelsat. You can address the IRIS Square Consortium with SES to speak about the coming capabilities. I would like to underline the fact that Eutelsat also has already active and operating constellation, which is OneWeb, which is a key asset that is neither US nor China. And we are convinced that it is a crucial capability when everyone is looking for reliability and sovereignty. So I will end here by stressing that the cornerstone of everything is political will. So continuous political will from France, Germany, and Italy, the Commission, ESA, to continue investing in space, not just to have nice R&D projects, but to have real capacity that are for use for sovereign needs and commercial markets. So we'll continue investing in that, being reliable partners when it comes for any kind of partnerships with Japan. I will be more shorter on the second aspect, but one cornerstone of our industrial policy was to investing in the, I would say, the renewal or the acceleration of the French industry. With, I mentioned it, the investment plan called France 2030. So here the goal was to give a new impetus to the filière, to GIFAS, to the established players, but also to help startups access first market. So you have a lot of startups here in this Spaces hub, and I hope you will enjoy the talks with all the entrepreneurs and investors as well. So here I would like to underline two main elements. First, this was also a pivotal moment for CNES. Our French agency has always been in support of new projects, new technologies, but CNES is now playing the role of an anchor customer, being able to guarantee the quality of service and the effectiveness of the product, being the client, the customer, and providing the capacity of CNES and the credibility of CNES to the startups and the new products. The second impetus we had was also on the downstream use of space. So we made sure with this investment plan that all the data, Earth observation data that are I would say that are produced by constellations, by satellites, are used by a whole range of users. And we had a specific focus on public policy, so beyond military, but I'm thinking about science, climate change observation, but also crisis management, agriculture, or economic indicators. So with this plan and through CNES, we had been able to expand the use of space data across the administration so that new public policies use and will be end users, customers of space data emanating from Earth observation constellations. So with that, I wish you a very good stay in Paris at the Bourget, and I hope that we'll have the opportunities to meet your colleagues from GIFAS and startups to have new partnerships from a business and technological perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maxence Brichoux, Head of Unit for Space Policy at the French Ministry of Industry, Finance, and Industrial and Digital Sovereignty. The next speaker will be Mr. Akiyoshi Kawabata, Counselor at the Embassy of Japan in France and representative of the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry.
Thank you. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Kawabata et je suis responsable de la coopération économique, industrielle et énergétique entre le Japon et la France à l'ambassade du Japon en France. Je suis heureux que nous puissions aujourd'hui réunir des acteurs de l'industrie spatiale de deux pays, le Japon et la France, et offrir ainsi une occasion d'échange. Now, so I will change in English. So as Director General of the Cabinet Office, Kazeki-san has just explained Japan's space policy, and I'd like to introduce Japan's space industry policy and the possibilities for cooperation between Japan and France. First, I'd like to introduce the three priority areas of Japan's space industry policy. The first is addressing social challenges. We aim to contribute to addressing social challenges faced by Southeast Asian countries and Middle Eastern countries by using Japanese space tech and satellite data. The second is developing new space frontiers. We promote the development of new space businesses by supporting businesses that are challenging new market areas, such as space environment sustainability, lunar exploitation, and satellite constellations, while also actively working on international cooperation and rule-making. Third point is strengthening the supply chain. We are working to build a strong supply chain capable of mass-producing satellites and launching rockets at high frequencies. This will become the foundation of Japanese competence to compete in the global market. Based on these three priorities areas of Japan's space industry policy, I believe there are two areas of potential cooperation between Japan and France. These are space sustainability and strengthening supply chain, which are positioned as some of the new space business opportunities. First, regarding space sustainability. Other space plays an important role in our lives, industries, and security infrastructure. But there's a lot of debris and satellites out there, and if we don't deal with them, it could hinder our ability to compete. France is global leader in space debris management, and its expertise and initiatives are highly regarded. Japan is also engaged in various initiatives in the fields of debris removals and non-orbit services. For example, companies such as Astroscale, Mitsubishi Heavy Industry MHI, build Astrospace, Pale-View, and orbital lasers are actively involved in this field. We value our commitment to contributing to the establishment of international rules based on industrial realities. And we are confident that the common stance of Japan and France will contribute to the establishment of international rules that supports the sustainable use of space. We aim to pursue solutions based on space technologies in Japan and France. We believe that Japan and France can achieve this. Next, I'd like to touch on strengthening of supply chains. The space industry is now a global industry that can't be completed by a single country, and cooperation with reliable partners is important. By avoiding the risk of over-reliance on space countries and cooperating with reliable countries such as Japan and France in areas such as parts procurement, it will be possible to build a more reliable and competitive in the supply chain. In Japan, this year, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, and SJAC organized a delegation of Japanese space industry representatives to visit Paris and Toulouse in France in January, where we had the opportunity to tour the local factories of Ariane Group, Airbus Defense and Space, and Thales Arena Space. I also participated in the events. So that must be, so I also participated in the picture. During the visit, industries dialogue was held GFAS and SJAC. Surprisingly, a total of 145 dialogues took place, cooperative relations that leverage the strengths both countries are already being established between companies both countries. And we would like to further develop these trust, these relations, and expand the scope of cooperation based on trust from perspective of economic security. Today, companies from Japan, including IHI Aerospace, NEC, Eagle Industry, Digital Blast, Shin Maya Industries, and Mitsubishi Electric are participating. I hope you will take this opportunity to communicate directly with each company's representative and discover the potential for industrial cooperation between Japan and France. As a final remark, I sincerely hope that today's exchange will mark a new step towards the further development of the space industry of both Japan and France. Thank you for your attention. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention.
Thank you, Mr. Akiyoshi Kawabata, counselor at the Embassy of Japan in France and a representative of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. So our next speaker will be Dr. François Jacques, Chief Executive Officer of CNEX.
Thank you. I try to do that way because, you know, I'm not fit for purpose with the mic. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, that's a real pleasure to be here today. I really want to thank our Japanese friends for traveling to Paris and sharing their views today about this important issue of industrial policy and partnership. Thanks. Let me start maybe with the excellence and intensity of the Japanese-French partnership. I noticed that in my previous field of activities, that was in CA, but I must say that it starts with the excellence of a relation between both space agencies in Japan and in France. Clearly, we are often, if not always, on the same page, because we are built on the same model, because basically we are both agencies ranging from scientific and technological capabilities to funding for the space sector. And I think that means that we have a lot to share, and that was a sound basis for the French-Japanese cooperation. A testimony to that is on the exhibit of CNES, where we have some important project done together. Callisto was already mentioned, and it's important. That's Japanese, German, French, basically, but that's an important project. And we also have the discovery of Mars, Moon with MMX and the rover IDFX, and also the spectrometer instrument, and which is also absolutely key. So that's a good and sound basis for international cooperation and industrial cooperation between both our countries. I really want now to highlight the growing importance of industrial cooperation between France and Japan, which ultimately goes hand in hand with what I underline in terms of vitality of our bilateral relation. I'm delighted to note that many new partnerships were built between French and Japanese industry over the recent months. I can name a few. First, we've got our two prime contractors, Airbus Defence and Space and Thales Alenia Space, which have won 3 contracts in total from major Japanese operators, Sky Perfect, JSAT, to supply telecommunication, satellite. Alongside the major industrial players, I want also to highlight the success of our French startups, Unseen Labs, which provides maritime surveillance service to the Japanese authority, and also Exotrail, which supplies this time propulsion equipment to Japanese industrial. I'm convinced that there is a considerable potential for developing these commercial relations, particularly in the field of space equipment and data services. We also notice the development of French-Japanese industrial partnership here in France, with some recent Japanese investment in France, with Japanese companies opening representation here in France. We can only welcome the opening in Toulouse. Obviously, Toulouse is dear to the heart of CNES, as you can imagine. A few months ago, of a French subsidiary by Astroscale, which is a Japanese pioneer in orbit services, particularly active debris removal activities. Also the Japanese company Bull, not the French Bull, which develops devices for deorbiting space objects, first launch stages, I'm so sorry, satellites, in order to limit the presence of debris in space. It also opened a subsidiary in France last April. This demonstrates, I think, France's appeal to space entrepreneurs, and we are particularly delighted to welcome and support the establishment of Japanese industrial companies here in France. To conclude, because we clearly are convinced that there is a lot of potential in this partnership, we would like to expand it, and CNES is also working closely in that direction with two major Japanese players, CrossU and SpaceTide, which are specifically responsible for supporting the development of the Japanese industrial ecosystem, particularly in its international dimension. To sum it up, I think the enduring and long-standing French-Japanese institutional cooperation in space is now well complemented by increasingly dense industrial and commercial ties, and we have just, as you said, action, action, and action, further develop that. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. François Jacques, Chief Executive Officer of CNES. So let's welcome now Dr. Hiroshi Yamakawa, the President of the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA.
So, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you for having me here today at this SJAC GFAS Space Industry Dialogue. As this is the first time this dialogue has been held, I'm pleased to see that the aerospace industry in Japan and France are becoming more and more closely connected. Today, I would like to introduce JAXA's international cooperation efforts with CNES and ESA, as well as our efforts to promote space industry. In December 2023, the leaders of France and Japan issued the roadmap on Japan-France cooperation under exceptional partnership. The roadmap states that France and Japan will continue their existing close cooperation in areas of mutual interest, such as space science, exploration, Earth observation, and rockets, through their space agencies, JAXA and CNES. The slide shows some examples of our ongoing missions, such as Asteroid Sample Return Mission Hayabusa 2, Martian Moons Exploration Mission MMX, Atmosphere Observing System AOS Storm, Reusable Rocket Demonstration Mission Callisto, and Next Generation Solar Observing Satellite, Solar C. I look forward to continuing communication with newly appointed CNES CEO, Dr. François Jacques, and to promote further cooperation. I understand this year marks the 50th anniversary of ESA, and congratulations to Dr. Joseph Ashbacher and my friends at ESA. 2024, last year, was a momentum that marked a new page in the history of ESA-JAXA cooperation. Last November, the JAXA-ESA joint statement on next big corporations was signed between us and announced during the visit to Japan by the ESA Director General Joseph. We identified future paths for building up large and significant cooperative missions for next decades in the fields of low Earth orbit, exploration, space science, planetary defense, and Earth observation. JAXA has been cooperating with CNES and ESA for decades as a core implementing agency of Japan's space policy and as a research and development agency. At the same time, JAXA's role continues to expand. For example, as already mentioned by several speakers, last year the Japanese government established a 10-year, 1 trillion yen space strategy fund within JAXA to support the Japanese industry and academia players who have technology, ideas, and ambitions. With this fund, JAXA is promoting the development of economy in space. We also promote space industry collaboration, including our participation at the Citadel Lesbos in Toulouse last year and at business forums held in Japan, as well as cooperating in B2B matching events with European countries. The environment surrounding the global aerospace industry is changing day by day, and its players are diversifying. I hope that today's space industry dialogue and networking event will provide various organizations and companies from France, Japan, and Europe to gain opportunities for future cooperation and to further deepen their collaboration with Japan. Thank you very, very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hiroshi Yamakawa, President of the Japanese Space Agency. Our last speaker will be Dr. Joseph Aschbacher, Director General for the European Space Agency.
So thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you, GIFAS, for inviting the European Space Agency to the French JAXA celebration of friendship. And I'm very happy to be here because together we are working and contributing a lot. So really very happy to hear also Kaseki-san. Thank you so much for your action statements. We will not forget that. Yamakawa-san, thank you for your nice words, but also our colleagues from the ministry, François Jacques from Japan. I'm the last one to speak, so I will be very concise and very short, but really to underline that it is a great pleasure to be here. It is a great pleasure to celebrate the cooperation which France, but also the European Space Agency have with Japan and the various entities of Japan, JAXA, but also the various activities that there are. As you mentioned, we celebrate 50 years of ESA. We have a very nice celebration tomorrow evening, but this is a very special moment for us. France, of course, being a founding member of the European Space Agency, but also since the very beginning, we established very strong relationships with Japan on many domains, and today we have a very solid, a very important relationship. Let me also say that Europe with Japan and with JAXA in particular, we really have we have many projects that we put together since the 1970s. The most remarkable ones that we have in orbit right now are Bepi Colombo, and I know that Yamakawa-san himself was the project manager of Bepi Colombo in JAXA, and EarthCare, where I was also in charge as a director of Earth observation when we built this satellite together. And I think these are two satellites that are showing quite well on how we work together. And if you allow me, I take the example of EarthCare as one that really underlines the spirit of our cooperation we have. EarthCare, we have started it in the early 2000s. It's an incredible mission to study the aerosol and the upper atmosphere, and therefore is indispensable for a better understanding of the Earth system. We encountered some technical problems along the way. And this is exactly how good partners are working together. We have together figured out how we can solve and overcome these technical issues. It was one particular element called the HPT, high power transmitter, that failed, and several tests. And we were quite desperate, both Japan and ESA, on how to overcome that. But what I want to say is that we have never given up. We have always been sticking together. We have been supporting each other. And this is exactly what shows a trusted relationship, that we rely on each other, we trust each other, but we support each other if there is a need to do so. And I think this is an exemplary example where both Japan, and I really would like to thank Japan for this very strong relationship and this very strong support in building this up. And on that basis, because the cooperation with Japan was so pleasurable and so fruitful for both parties, we discussed together with Yamakawa-san more than a year ago whether we should renew and initiate new cooperation projects together. And we have consulted our member states, France and the member states of ESA, and unanimously they have asked me to intensify and build up new cooperation projects of the size of Bepi Colombo and of the size of EarthCare in the future. And this is exactly what you have seen before, the joint statement of big new cooperations that we have signed in November last year. I really would like to take the occasion, first of all, to renew my full support on the side of the European Space Agency to make sure that in these 4 domains that you have mentioned, plus the commercialization, that you have my full support, that we work together, and we will identify very exciting, very important projects in these domains. But also, I'd like to thank you for the very nice hospitality when I was in November in Japan in order to really understand better the capacities and the excellence of the Japanese space sector, both of JAXA, obviously, but also industry, which was very impressive, and I really appreciate. With this, thank you so much, and thank you once more, GFAS, for inviting me to give a very short talk on this celebration, which I can only support fully from the side of the European Space Agency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph Aschbacher, Director General of the European Space Agency. This concludes our keynote session. So on behalf of SJAC and GFAS, I would like to thank all our distinguished speakers for their valuable insights. May this event be a stepping stone toward even closer industrial and institutional ties. So I suggest that we join together at the middle of the stage to take a picture, and then we will start the tour of the Japanese delegation around the Paris Space Hub.